If you could live forever, would you? Let me know in the comment section below. Hey guys, Shalana here. Welcome to the Binge Zone. On today's video, we're going to be looking at the Netflix original movie, The Old Guard, looking at the ending, the plot, the themes, and the characters to get a better understanding of this entire movie. Now, The Old Guard is a movie following Andromache the Scythian, as well as her crew called the Old Guard. Now, these are immortal warriors who have been around for hundreds of years to thousands of years, and they travel around the world doing good for mankind in the shadows, interfering in different events throughout history. And the main team consists of Andromache the Scythian, we have Joe aka Yusuf, we have Niccolo aka Nicky, and we also have Sebastian aka Booker. These are the four main members of the Old Guard, and they were introduced to the newest member, Niall, who just joined in the start of the movie. Now, what makes this very interesting is the fact that every member of the Old Guard comes from a different time period and has a different age and different experiences. So we're gonna start off looking at the leader of the Old Guard, Andromache the Scythian. Now, throughout the movie, Andromache never tells us how old she is. And of course, you're never supposed to ask a woman how old she is. But because I know her name, I was able to track down just how old Andromache is. Because her name is Andromache the Scythian, meaning she's from Scythia. And if you look up Scythia, Scythia existed thousands of years ago. We're talking about 4,000 to 5,000 years before Christ's era. So that's 4,000 to 5,000 years BC. That means she's old, older than Jesus. Now, the area of Scythia falls in the old Roman Empire between Europe and Asia, the area called Eurasia, and she's from that area, meaning that she is about 6,000 years old. So she's been around, and with her being around, Andromache speaks every language known to man, because again, she's been around since before some of these languages existed, before English, or whatever language you're watching this video in or you're watching this movie in. She existed long before this, and because of that, she speaks all these languages. She knows all these combat forms. The movie is about her journey being tired of living for so long, and throughout her travel, she's met plenty of other immortals outside of the Old Guard. She had her former best friend Quinn, and also her former lover Lycan. And when it comes to Lycan, Lycan's a very interesting case because Lycan was the first immortal to die, showing Andromache that their gift of immortality is temporary. Granted, Andromache has had her gift for over 6,000 years, but it has a shelf life, and the movie explores that possibility as we see her lose her immortality. But before we dive deeper into Andromache, let's look at some of the other members of the Old Guard. You have Joe and Niccolo, and these two are lovers from the Crusades. So about 1,000 years ago for both of these characters. And the very interesting dynamic about these two characters is the fact that they fought on opposite sides of the crusade. As you can see, Niccolo is Italian. That means he was part of the Christianity sect of the Crusades, the one who went out into the world to spread their message to the infidels. And Joe, Yusuf, being Arab, was on the opposing end of that. And because of that, they fought each other in the war and they killed each other. And that's how they developed their abilities. And that bond between them actually caused them to grow close, and they actually fell in love. These two characters have such a beautiful love story, a beautiful romance, and an impossible one at that. Because if you think about it, these two were around the first crusade. That means religion was at an all-time high. You just couldn't be gay. And they had that working against each other, as well as being on opposite sides of the war, yet they came together to form such a beautiful love story. And I have to say, their story is beautiful. In the movie, when Joe says, "my boyfriend," as though he was offended that they would call Nicky his boyfriend, because Nicky means so much more to him than just a boyfriend. My boyfriend. I was like, bitch, I want somebody to love me like Joe loves Nicky. But moving on from these characters, we also have Booker. Now, Booker is the youngest member of the Old Guard because he joined them in the year 1812, which is still 200 years in the past, but compared to Andromache, who's 6,000 years old, and Nicky and Joe, who are about 1,000 years old each, he's the youngest member before Niall jumps in, and he actually had a family. He had a wife, he had kids, and he had to leave them behind. And that has stuck with Booker throughout the movie, and that kind of guides some of his actions. And then you have our newest member, Niall. Niall Freeman from the south side of Chicago. Talk about black. You can't get any blacker than being called Freeman and also being from the south side of Chicago in 2020. But even with that being said, Niall's character is a very interesting one because she's from the 21st century. She uses smartphones. She's part of this entire global connective world which is a bigger issue for the old guard because remember, they move in the shadows and they do things behind closed doors or behind people's backs. So throughout history, they've been affecting different parts of the world and their actions have pretty much gone unrecorded. And now we live in an era where everything was recorded. This video was recorded, you're watching it online, you're on social media, you're tracked everywhere you go, so it becomes harder for them to move. And because we're in this ever-connecting society, now it's pretty connected to her family. And in the old guard, they ask her to remove her connections to her family. And that's very hard for her, yet it's very necessary because you have to understand, once you get to a certain age, right, you're not gonna die anymore, but your family's gonna die. If you have kids, your kids are gonna grow old past you. Granted, you'll be older than them in years lived, but physically they will age past you and your kids will die. Booker had to go through that, so that's why they don't do that in the old guard. So you have these characters recruiting now to join them. Now the villain of this movie, Merrick, is the owner, CEO of a big pharma company, and their goal is to find the old guard, take their DNA, and use that to kind of cure disease, old age, and they do this via Copeland. Copeland is doing villainous things for a good intention. Copeland was a former CIA agent, and when he watched his wife die of ALS and there was nothing he could do, he started tracking the old guard, tracking their movements throughout history, and he realized, hey, in this event here, the old guard was here, they saved somebody here, and that person's grandson ends up doing some good. By them moving throughout history and saving lives of certain individuals, that allows a new individual to be born. For example, by saving someone's life, you allow them to procreate, and maybe the kid that they procreate has the cure for cancer. So because of that, he decides that he has to find the old guard, help Merrick, take their DNA to find this cure to end disease, to help elongate human life, to make us better. But of course, Merrick is only in this for profit. And that's one of the biggest things I like about this movie is the fact that it takes themes such as profit, age, immortality, and makes us really look at it. Because let's look at the theme of the old guard for a minute. You have Merrick Enterprises, which is 2020 in a nutshell, a big company CEO who only cares about his profit margin, while he hides behind the guise of doing things that's right for human nature and humankind. It's really at the end of the day about the dollar bills, y'all. And because it's about that, he goes through some shady shit and he does some shiesty motherfucking things to get their DNA. He even locks them up as immortal guinea pigs, and using their DNA, he's trying to find a way to elongate his life as well as make mad money off of this. And then you have the theme of immortality and your choices that you make, your ripple effects. For example, Andromache has been around for 6,000 years. And throughout history, her footprint matters. And what I mean by footprint is the things she does, saving someone here, helping someone here, in the long run, it's like paying it forward. So if you're cursed or gifted with immortality, what do you do with it? That's what the question of the show asks. Because you can do one of two things with it. You can take that gift like Andromache did, like the old guard does, and they help the world. Or you can be like Merrick Enterprises and you take that gift and you take that curse and you actually go and profit off of it, essentially. So those two lessons are really there. The weight and price of immortality, the good or bad of it all. What do you think you would do with immortality? Let me know in the comment section below. But now let's look at some interesting tidbits of the story, because at the end of the story, we know that Quinn is back. Quinn was Andromache's best friend throughout history and maybe lover. And we saw a unique way of dealing with someone who's immortal. And that way is pretty much putting them in an iron tomb and dropping them in the bottom of the ocean. Sure, they'll come back, but they'll keep dying and coming back. And this power was not explained in the show specifically, but it seems to be some sort of divine power, because in the movie, Andromache does not believe in God because she's been around since before Christ, so of course she's gonna not believe in that. But also, Niccolo used to be a priest back in the Crusades, and Yusuf is a man of faith. You have these two characters who really believe in this, and you have Andromache who doesn't. And because of that, you have the interesting theory of, are their powers divine? If their purpose has been fulfilled, would that cause another immortal to be born? And we saw in the movie, when Nile comes to be and she gains her immortality, that's when Andromache starts to fade. Is Andromache's purpose on the earth fulfilled and now it's the age of Nile? Because before Andromache lost her immortality, only one person had died before, and that was her lover Lycan. And we don't know what happened to Lycan and why he died, but maybe that was to teach Andromache a lesson that, yo, you can die. Because remember, at the time, They thought they were immortal. She was worshipped as a goddess, Andromache the Scythian, and because she was worshipped as a goddess and she lived a pretty lavish warrior lifestyle where she was out in the public with her powers, she probably got a little hubris, and once she found out that you can actually die, like, she had to take a step back and decide to live in the shadows and save the world in that manner, because that was the lesson that was hers. So maybe that is a divine intervention. But with Quinn coming back at the end, it begs the question, one, how did she get out? And two, what is she gonna do now she's with Booker? Because remember, Booker was kicked out of the group for 100 years. He's banned because he betrayed them in order to try to help save the world, because Booker realized just staying in the shadows isn't enough. He wants to connect with the world. He's lonely and tired because being an immortal is lonely. You leave your family behind. You can't have any real loved ones unless they're immortals like you. And for 200 years, it was only Andromache and Booker who were immortals that were single, because Niccolo and Joe were a thing. So he betrayed them, and with betraying them, he was kicked out of the group for 100 years. And 6 months into it, Quinn escaped her tomb and she found him. Now, the reason she found him is because I believe Quinn holds a grudge against Andromache. Because think about it from Quinn's perspective for a second. If I'm trapped in an iron tomb underwater and I know Andromache is immortal, why is she not looking for me? Granted, Andromache has no idea where Quinn is. Like, it's totally not her fault. But Quinn doesn't know that. All she knows is I keep dying, coming back. I keep seeing these new immortals. Andromache has a new family. She forgot about me. So her mind is distorted from being in isolation for so long. Because think about in prison why they put people in solitary confinement, because of the isolation. So her thing is she wants revenge on the old guard, because she wants revenge on Andromache, and the old guard has taken everything from her, such as her lover and her best friend. Anyway, guys, that's the ending of the show. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the show in the comment section below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. And until next time, binge on.